Welcome to the STR Intelligence Weekly Regulations Roundup, your source for the latest news on short-term rental regulations across the country. I'm your host, Nora. This week we have updates from Saratoga Springs, New York, Charlotte, North Carolina, Isle of Palms, South Carolina, Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, Oceanside, California, and Cadillac, Michigan. We begin in Saratoga Springs, Michigan, where the city is considering legislation to regulate short-term rentals in response to residents' concerns about their growth. The tourist destination relies on visitors, but some locals say investors are buying up homes solely to rent on short-term rental platforms. Commissioner Moran has drafted rules after talking to stakeholders. They would mandate safety measures like inspections and exit plans while preserving property rights. Moran also wants to maintain affordable housing stock, arguing speculative real estate investors are pricing out potential residents. The city estimates that 15% of city homes are currently short-term rentals. Incoming Commissioner Call agrees regulation is a priority. State Senator Tedisco says he will wait for local officials before considering action in Albany. An Airbnb spokesperson says the company hopes to work with the city on sensible rules. The debate centers on balancing tourism's economic boost with the quality of life for voters who call Saratoga Springs home year-round. We next travel to Charlotte, where city council members representing Lake Norman and Lincoln County are looking to regulate short-term rentals due to complaints about noise, trash, and other problems from visiting groups. Lincoln County officials are considering new regulations requiring permits for short-term rentals, limiting guests, and setting trash pickup rules. They aim to balance neighborhood concerns with property rights. Similar debates are unfolding over zoning issues in other areas like York County, SC, and Rock Hill. Proposed regulations in the Carolinas have varied, with some counties placing limits on occupancy, while others ban short-term rentals entirely in unincorporated areas. Officials note rental income has also priced some locals out of housing in popular tourist areas. Overall, the Charlotte region is looking to take a targeted approach to regulating short-term rentals, rather than banning them entirely after the North Carolina Court of Appeals ruled in favor of short-term rental owners, stating the city of Charlotte was violating a state statute by requiring short-term rental operators to register their properties. Staying in the Carolinas, residents of Isle of Palms, South Carolina, recently held a city meeting on whether to cap short-term rental licenses for investment properties. The referendum was proposed by a petition signed by over 30% of registered voters, concerned that short-term rentals could overrun the island. Full-time residents who can rent their homes for 72 days per year would not be subject to a cap. Although the island has traditionally had a mix of residents, second homes, and rentals, opponents and supporters of the regulations waged a contentious campaign for the proposed cap. The end result was the referendum failing, with 54.5% voting no. Opponents against the proposed regulations argued a license cap could depress real estate prices by creating uncertainty on whether a property could be used for short-term rentals. Supporters contended limits were needed to prevent short-term rentals from dominating the island and impacting the quality of life. For now, Isle of Palms short-term rentals are safe. Jumping over to Wisconsin, the city of Sturgeon Bay is facing a potential lawsuit from the Wisconsin Realtors Association over its short-term rental ordinance. Sturgeon Bay's Plan Commission recommended changes to the city code. The current code requires short-term rental owners-operators to reside within 3 counties, Door, Kewaunee, or Brown, or contract with a management company in Door County. The commission favored expanding the residency requirement to allow owners-operators within a 90-minute drive, time of the rental unit. They also recommended allowing short-term rentals in residences with less than 2 off-street parking spaces, as the current parking requirement could prohibit rentals of 7+ days. Finally, the commission advised renewing short-term rental licenses annually instead of every 2 years to ensure the $100 licensing fee covers administrative costs as required by state law. The Community Protection and Services Committee will review the recommendations before the Common Council considers final approval of the short-term rental ordinance changes. Over in the city of Oceanside, at a recent community meeting, residents told the City Planning Commission that short-term rental party houses are creating noise, trash, and parking issues, mainly in beach neighborhoods. and the city's rental ordinance needs to be more restrictive and enforced. Residents said additional bedrooms are being added to rent out more rooms, exacerbating problems. The commission recommended denying a proposed amendment to prohibit new short-term rentals east of the coastal zone, and instead collect more data and possibly rewrite the ordinance. The city has permitted over 1,100 short-term rentals, generating around $163,000 in tax revenue in the last year. However, they're struggling to regulate code enforcement with only one assigned enforcement officer. While limiting short-term rental permits citywide was suggested, the commission is hesitant due to the significant source of tax revenue for the city. Finally, we end off in Cadillac, Michigan. Selma and Cherry Grove townships near Lake Mitchell are creating ordinances to regulate short-term rentals in response to resident complaints about noise, parking, and other issues, especially around the lake. The townships, which run alongside Lake Mitchell, want rules in place before the state potentially removes local control. Cherry Grove is considering a certificate system, while Selma is still unsure which method they'll utilize. Both plan to use surveys to guide the ordinances, which will likely limit numbers, require on-site management, and impose substantial fines for violations. The fire chief will enforce conditions like parking and occupancy limits through fire codes. The goal is to have new rules in place by next summer. Overall, the townships aim to listen to residents' wishes to strictly limit the negative impacts of short-term rentals, especially on Lake Mitchell, while retaining local oversight. That's it for this edition of the STR Intelligence Weekly Regulations Roundup. Don't forget to visit our YouTube to stay up to date on the latest STR regulation news and analysis. We post new videos every week, so hit the bell to get notified when a new one drops. You can also listen to the STR Intelligence Weekly podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Leaving a review helps others find the show. Also, if you enjoy listening to our weekly podcast, make sure to sign up for our newsletter at strintelligence.com and get these regulations and more sent directly to your inbox. Be sure to tune in next week as we bring you the latest short-term rental news from across the nation.